million questions everybody asks, oh, but is he the one?
We seek a relationship outside of ourselves. If I want her to be the one, I have. People ask me, like, how did you get to this point? I'm being honest, this was never in the plan. I'm a basketball player, I'm gonna coach basketball, it's gonna be basketball, basketball, basketball. We have adopted stories and beliefs from our parents, religion, society, our culture. We then make them our own beliefs, and here's the hard part about beliefs. We don't know what beliefs we have because they're invisible. You don't know what beliefs you have until you're triggered.
Wow.
And here's the issue. That belief that you have right now is not, oh, this doesn't actually exist without me. This is literally a mirror, and that mirror doesn't smile unless I smile.
What tools do you use for your you versus you battle?
I have what I call...
Derrick, thank you for being here. I was just sharing with you how excited I am to have you on the show. I think my selfish self, outside of what the audience is going to get today, I'm super excited and genuinely thrilled to ask you a lot of my own personal questions and things I'm going through, because I've been ministered by your own words from the first day that I walked in and heard you speak. And so the audience knows, I went to the Moore, this place in Miami, thinking I was going to have a dinner. I ended up stumbling into your conversation, and right away you said a line that just grabbed me. And I'll never forget it, because you said, you know, reality is your perception is your beliefs. Whose beliefs are you living?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's just start with that. What was it about the journey you went through from traveling the world as a professional basketball player in the Globetrotters to deciding to dedicate your life to teaching others? Because that's, I would say, it's even a bigger responsibility.
Because people ask me, like, how did you get to this point? And I'm like, if I'm being honest, this was never in the plan. Somebody would have told me this 15 years ago, I'd be like, nah, there's no way. I'm a basketball player. I'm going to coach basketball. It's going to be basketball, basketball, basketball. But in 2019, I went through a really tough time financially, hardship. I had a business partner, decided to commit fraud, lost everything. And now I thought I was my house. I thought I was my car. I thought I was my money. I thought I was all of these things externally, and now none of them are there. My family's looking at me like, what do we do? And one day I just looked at myself and I was like, how did we get to this point? And then what do we have to do to change it? And as clear as day, I heard like this voice, this feeling, this thought came in. It said, change the way you look at it. And my mom used to always tell me, like, the glass is either half empty or half full. It's up to you how you look at it. And I realized this thing that we call perspective was really what was molding and shaping my reality, but I was unaware of the perspective that I was unconsciously choosing. So once I started to like figure this out, I always say it's like eating food at a cookout. When you taste something good, you want everybody else to taste it. And it was like, hold on, there's more to life inside of us than what we know. And this is kind of when the journey began. And now, I mean, I've dedicated my whole life. I told my wife, if I go before her at the funeral, tell everybody that I lived my days trying to figure out me. That was it. So
trying to figure out me.
Yeah. I
could share in that journey. You know, I grew up in church. I grew up, my mother is a pastor. But I always, since I could remember, I always felt off. And it wasn't about the concept of God. It was more about the restrictions which I felt limit what I saw my creativity flowing and where it was. And, you know, church as a whole has evolved to be so many other things.
Sure.
Our institutional church has evolved to be so many things. But I entered the music industry and the entertainment industry, spent 23 years. And then I found myself, thankfully not at the loss of everything, but miserable. You know, at a place where I felt like I couldn't find the true joy behind anything. And it came at the breaking point of my emotional life, because I found out I was going to be a father with someone who today's my beautiful, incredible wife, but at the time was an unknown person who I did not know. And I was wow. This is going to be war. I don't know you.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
And then facing that, there was days I come into the office, I would just put my hoodie up and like knock out. I couldn't work. I couldn't like think. I couldn't function. And it started the anxiety, I would call it, because that's what it felt like, to want to just figure out what this was about, like, you know? And that leads me to, I love that you describe yourself as a mindset coach, because in my own personal work and search of the answers, I would say, I realized how powerful the mind is. What was the first time that you realized, like, okay, it's all internal, like, and that really triggered? Because there's the first realization of like, okay, I got to change my way I look at something, but that too, I got to train my brain to be my best tool. There's ways between those two.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well,
Still crazy to us how only about 50% of you guys are subscribed to our channel. Now, we love that you're listening to this content and it is a blessing to your life, and we would love for you to join our global community. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like, comment, and share. And thank you for tuning in to You Versus You.
Pre-2019, when I got done playing basketball, I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, basketball's been your whole life. And my wife is like, well, why don't you start a business and you start a skill development company of training basketball players? I'm like, nobody's going to pay me to teach them how to play basketball. They can go on YouTube. Like, for what? Well, I was living, still do. I live in Indiana. Well, Indiana basketball is like a religion out there. So I started with 2 kids at a park, and it grew to over 350 kids in a year, and working with NBA players and WNBA players. And I started to see someone who made it to the NBA and somebody who didn't, it wasn't their skill set. And I started to like hang around these guys and talk to them more. And I started to see like, this guy thinks differently. He sees himself differently. He perceives the world differently. He perceives failure differently than the guy who didn't make it. So then when I went through my tough time, went through my hardship, my sacred wound, I would tell people about the situation. And I remember thinking, how come it's not affecting you the same way it's affecting me? How come it doesn't bother you that I went through all this and lost all this? Because, you tell people and they're like, oh, well, sorry, feel bad for you. And I'm like, man, what is it? And then I realized we're all living in our own reality. There's 8 billion people here on this planet, but there's literally 8 billion different realities, because when I hear a song and you hear the same song, we have 2 completely different perspectives, but that's what shapes our experience. So I just started to realize, hold on, my life is literally just the inside of me turned inside out. So if I can start to control this, if I can start to control this, I start to control this. But where we get in trouble, usually we try to control this and don't pay any attention to this. And this is when we're hamsters on a wheel.
Yeah, I think that's, even in conversation, it's a hard concept for people to take in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I found that, like, because we're all living our different realities and we perceive everything different, when I first started to feel this and have that self-discovery, I'm one of those guys that I share.
Sure.
I share.
Sure.
With an intimate group, but I share because I'm so thrilled about everything. I'm so passionate. One of the things that I recognized right away is that while the idea sounded really interesting and they can get what I was trying to say, digesting it and turning it into something that you can actually do a plan to go fix your mind or go actually change your mindset is where the struggle was happening. And it was happening to me, like, because like anything else, when you're an overachiever, you go all in. Sure. And then you're like, no, but I can't fail because I got to go all in. Right, and you're perceiving that as failure, right? Which is and so then your mind starts going into the thing.
Right.
What are the kind of the key principles? Because you obviously teach a lot of entrepreneurs, heavy athlete, NFL, NBA players. Yep. One is, what do you see the biggest mind blocks? And then what is the roadmap that you teach in order to start the process of changing your mindset?
Yeah. The number one thing, and I say this, it makes my job really simple, because when I start working with somebody, it doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter their background. We all have the same issues. All of us. It just looks different on the surface. So when I go into, say I'm working with somebody new or I'm having a conversation, I know at the foundation of it, it's always one thing. Am I good enough just as I am? That's the question. That's what we're all seeking. We call it self-worth, but we've taken our self-worth and put it outside of ourselves. We put it in our money. We put it in our accomplishments. We put it in, I was able to transmute energy for a long time through basketball. Well, I'll show everybody how good I am. Well, the only reason why I need to show everybody is because deep down inside, I don't think I'm good enough as I am. And eventually, that well of energy runs dry. And we see this with professional athletes. We see this with entrepreneurs. When you made it to the top of the mountain and it's like, now what? I still don't feel like I'm enough. So I always start with the framework knowing that it's the energy of self-worth. And then it's now going back in your past and seeing these stories that you tell yourself. We have adopted stories and beliefs and paradigms from our parents, from religion, from society, our culture. We then make them our own beliefs. And here's the hard part about beliefs. We don't know what beliefs we have because they're invisible. You don't know what beliefs you have until you're triggered. Getting them to realize, oh, here's the belief. And here's the issue. That belief that you have right now is not in alignment with where you say you want to go. We have to change that belief. And that's where the work is.
I love that. And I remember you sharing about the Harvard study that they did on mice,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
If you could share a little bit of that, because I love that part of the conversation.
Yeah, they did a study on what they call epigenetics. And we always think, oh, well, it's been passed down. But Harvard did a study. They realized that they took mice, they put them in a cage, separate the male, separate the female, put the food over in a corner. Every time the mice would go to get the food, they would pump out cherry blossom scent and they would shock the floor. Well, what ended up happening is the mother mice and the father mice, they started to realize when we smell this,
It's no good.
it's no good. So they stopped eating the food. Well, then they had them mate, produced the offspring, and then they separated the offspring from the mother and they put them in a cage and they pumped out cherry blossom. And those baby mice wouldn't go eat the food. So they started to realize that even though they didn't have the experience, it still gets passed down some way. So for us, we literally, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day. We don't realize, like, on a cellular level, we're carrying the trauma, we're carrying the issues, we're carrying the belief system of people 3, 4, 5 generations ago. And if you look at our country, this is essentially what we're seeing on a mass scale. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But I started to realize my work on me isn't just my work on me. I'm fixing things within my parents. I'm fixing things within my grandparents, my culture, like all of that. So that's why I always tell people, you might as well go ahead and turn your shot clock off, because it's going to be a long game, because you'll never be done. Yeah. But the beauty of that is I can never be done growing.
Yeah, I always say my only mission is to unlock as many prisons in my mind as possible before the time is gone. Right?
That's good.
Because our belief systems, our fears, our trauma, like we talked, build these prisons and these things. And what I found in my own journey is really figuring out what those are is where the work is at.
That's the work.
And I think one of the hardest things to face is that we've been saying, like, especially in our business where we build kind of an alter ego, like I'm Lex, and I've been saying that in this work, I'm letting Lex rest and allowing Alejandro to finally come out.
Wow. It's good.
But that journey, it's hard to face yourself.
For sure.
Right? Hard to face this idea of, like, but this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, who am I?
Yeah.
How do you, because I'm sure all the people that you teach will have this, because like you said, it's our primal, like, hurt and trauma. How in your own personal journey, or how when you work with someone, do you get to the place where you get to start discovering the things that are reality in your life, or are a sense of who you truly are, versus stories and perception and things that you've had to build to protect, not seeing the trauma and so on?
Right. Yeah. I always tell people you have to go on a quest for information, and that's all a question is. Right. When I go on a quest for information, meaning I start asking myself questions.
Wow, a quest for information. That's what a question is.
Question, yeah.
Listen, we're done.
So I started asking myself simple questions. Like, I'll never forget, I was at a stoplight, and I was like, why do we work 5 days a week? Where'd that come from? Why is it Monday through Friday? How come we don't work 2 days a week? Why is that not the standard? I just started to ask these questions, like, well, why do we go to church on this day? Or why is this? By asking these questions on things on the outside, I naturally started to ask these questions about myself. Why do you feel unworthy when things don't go the way you think? Why do you want that car? What is it really? True story. I told my wife I want a Lamborghini. No. My wife shot me down real quick. She goes, for what? You probably won't fit in it. You can't drive it as fast as you want. They guzzle gas. They're loud. Why do you want a Lamborghini here in Indiana? And when she asked that question, I'm like, dang, why do I want a Lamborghini? And I sat and asked myself that question. You know what the reason was? I said, when I pull up to a restaurant, everybody would say, wow, who is that? So I really didn't want the car. I wanted the approval of other people. And my mind conjured up a way to justify this new version of itself who didn't feel like it was good enough, it figured out a way, well, let's project it outward. And then once I realized that, I'm like, I don't need the car. Because the car was just trying to get me to the part of myself that needed to be reconciled, that needed a new story, that needed to essentially be let go of. And that's really what our life is. Like, your belief system will only work to a point. The beliefs that got you to 1 million isn't going to get you to 10 million. So eventually all beliefs will run their course. The question is, how much can I let go of those old versions of me that don't serve the life that I want to live anymore? And that's the hard part with people. We like to hold on to who we were instead of allowing ourselves to live based on who we want to be.
I can relate to that. I love cars. And one of the things that I think one of the things that is interesting with how passionate I am about things is that when I get into something, I'm almost like obsessive about it.
Sure,
right?
sure, yeah.
And it's taming that fire in order. It's like, I don't just want one car. I want them all. And I want to manifest all of them.
Yeah.
And I want to prepare all of them, right? But talking about wealth and talking about, acquiring things, there's this limited mindset that I think, unless you grew up in money,
Right.
you grew up with the fear of loss, right? You grew up with like, what's going to happen when the money's not there?
Right.
And so you have your bank account full,
Yeah.
but still get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And one of the things for me that's been, I would say challenging to work on is I've never created with intention of return of money, right? So I've never gone into a project and say, okay, how much money am I going to make in the project? That's why I'm going to do it.
Sure.
I've generally been passionate about it, see the purpose in helping someone or driving something or being disruptive in something in order to do it. Sure. And in it, I've grown this level of manifestation around what I call my Tom Brady God, which is like, he just loves to I'll take that back. I always used to have the story that God for me was Tom Brady. He would only show up in the fourth quarter, right before we're about to lose the Super Bowl. He'll throw the championship win. And I'm like, and at first it helped me get out of the fear of like, oh, I'm going to fail.
Sure.
So it gave me the confidence that he was going to come through and that the universe was going to reshape the moment to create the opportunity. And I started to identify that pattern because it kept on happening.
Sure.
And we were at our film festival, I think it was last year, and I don't know what I was doing. And I remember I just heard that clear voice and it was like, what if you're just not playing the first 3 quarters correctly?
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, what?
Yeah. Wow.
But in the conversation of money and preparing the vessel, my vessel was big to receive it.
Sure.
Once I received it, I would go through these moments of not running out of it because I don't hold on to it. Sure. But almost like I can't give it to all over, right? Like, how do I? And it was selective because I am the most giving person to someone, but some other, like usually, believe it or not, was my partner.
Wow.
In that mindset, in this current situation, how would you coach me to work to that, right? Because I can give it to my friends, somebody needs a loan. I have again, my attachment to money is none.
Sure.
But I have a restrictive feeling around my partner.
Yeah.
Almost of a fear that they will screw me over.
Yeah. I would start with the relationship or the dynamic that you watched growing up, right? Mom's relationship with dad, or their relationship with money. Did one, mom depended on dad, or maybe dad left mom to dry? Like starting there, because we usually model what we've watched. Right? You start understanding how the subconscious mind works. When we're children, we're just sitting here watching and recording everything, and then accepting that as truth. So now that truth, that belief, is what really drives our behavior as adults. Not realizing, oh my goodness, this isn't me. I watched somebody else do this, and I accepted this as truth. So I can say with my parents, I grew up being told money doesn't grow on trees. Money's hard to come by. You better work hard if you're gonna save. And then I believed that, and I started to understand. Like as an entrepreneur, I'm like, why do I keep like self-sabotaging myself? Like there's about to be a break, and then all of a sudden, I'm right back to where I was. And I sat with it, and I realized, because there's a program, there's a story, there's a belief that says money's hard to come by. So even when it starts to become easy, That version of me who was created in this belief says, wait, hold on, no. And we self-sabotage. So for you, just listening to you without knowing the details, there's something around trust, right? There's something around like fear of, if I don't have this, if I give it to this person, what if they betray me? What if they leave me? What if something happens in the dynamic of the relationship? And I always say trust cures all. Like if you know you're going to get there and you know everything's going to work out, it allows us to let go a little bit easier.
We hear a lot of people talk about preparing your vessel to receive, right? Because it can't receive the Niagara Falls if it's the cup.
Sure.
What can someone do to prepare that vessel, right? Yeah. Especially to receive, financial blessing, growth, greatness, all these things that we've been taught as success.
Sure.
Which are things that we all work on something and we want to see it blossom. We want to put the seed and water it. What are things that you teach that help prepare the vessel for growth?
Yeah. First, you got to move out of a scarce mindset. Scarcity is the complete opposite nature of this universe. This universe doesn't comprehend scarcity. We create it in our mind. So moving from scarcity to abundance, you have to understand what abundance is. Abundance has nothing to do with money. Abundance has nothing to do with accumulation. Abundance is the recognition that I have everything that I need right now. So I don't have everything that I want. There's a lot of things that I want that I don't have. But I know for right now where my feet are, I have everything that I need. Because the only thing that exists is now. So I can't have something outside of now. So if I don't have it, I guess I wasn't supposed to have it. And this is where, you have to create a container to be able to receive. And people don't realize the container is shaped by your mindset. So I started to think, abundance has something to do with money. And then I started to really do this work and I realized you can't receive something when in the present moment, you're scared you won't have enough. Those are conflicting energies. You can't talk about scarcity and live in the frequency of scarcity and think that you're going to have abundance flow in. This is literally apples and oranges. So being able to realize, and that's why presence is so important, realize that whatever I have, it's what I needed. And if I don't have it, then I didn't need it for now. And being present and affirming yourself of that will allow you to start to trust. And when we start to trust, we literally just start opening our arms. And this is when it's so much easier for us to receive.
An article that you wrote on patience is rooted in being present. Can you talk more about that? Because I actually read it right before this, and I shared it with a friend who was going through something as I was reading, as I was doing this, and I just want you to talk about it because I thought it was another one of those things that I was like, wow.
Yeah, we don't realize that we don't actually have problems in the present moment. All of our problems are in the past and the future. But it's so challenging to get in this little sliver of what we call now. Just a sliver. Right? We call it a present moment. As soon as I'm present, that moment's done, and the next moment is here, and the next moment. So when I say patience is about presence, when you're present, there is no time. When there is no time, I have no pressure. I got to hurry up and do this. Oh, why is this not happening? We're here. It's now. Here we are. Whatever it is, this is what it is. True story. We're going through something in our family right now with my father-in-law. He's having some medical complications, and we got a call the other day, and that he was having seizures. So my wife's like panicking and freaking out, and my mother-in-law is, and my son was with me, and I said, "This is a good teaching moment for you right now." I said, "Do you see how I'm not freaking out right now? If I stay right here and stop conjuring up these stories of, well, what if this happens? What if it's, now I'm able to be in this safe space, this home base, and there are no problems here." So this is why when we do have issues, we tell people, just breathe, right? And I think in the society that we live in, this culture that we live in now, it's just grinding, go get it, and hustle, hustle, hustle. We don't take time to be present. The more present you are, the more patient you will be. But even on a deeper level, we think patience has something to do with time. Patience has more to do with trust. If you knew you were going to get to where you wanted to be, and you knew you were going to get there, signed, sealed, delivered, the universe says, hey, Lex, you got it. We would probably slow down a little bit and enjoy the journey because I know I'm going to get there. When am I going to get there? It's irrelevant. I know I'm going to get there. How am I going to get there? Doesn't matter. I know I'm going to get there. When we move in this energy, the only thing we will be is patient and trusting and knowing that, okay, this plays into it, this plays into it. I don't know how yet, but I know this plays into it. I mean, you can look at this podcast we're on right now. Who knew back in May when we were sitting here having this conversation? But Now we can look back on it retrospectively and see, okay, you were probably supposed to go to dinner. I was probably supposed to have that event that night that literally got scheduled at the last minute. So trusting and knowing that everything in your life is divinely ordered at the time that it's supposed to be for you, this allows patience.
That brings up a question I get a lot when I speak about this, which is like, I collect Porsches.
Okay.
I'm not a Lambo guy, but I collect Porsches. And, past 8 months, I have started to follow my passions. I've always loved cars and watches and other things, but generally didn't put it as a priority. I've had so much work and all these stories I told myself. And I always used to say, I need to find a hobby. Like as a man, I need to find a hobby. Like this is all I do is work, and all that I talk to is work people. And I don't have anybody who I could just call and talk some crap about anything else, because I don't really know about anything else either.
Right.
And as I got into the Porsche community, which is beautiful because it's all tax brackets. It's people who just bought their first car for the first time and they fixed it, and it's a beater, but they get it going.
Sure.
And the people that have the multi-million-dollar Porsche collectible that they barely ride out, right?
Right.
So the community is beautiful. And I went to a Porsche meetup, and it was at a restaurant, and I met the owner of the restaurant. And the conversation sparked on this subject, on trusting, and the battle of you versus you, and kind of watching the stories you tell yourself and reprogramming your mind to not follow this idea that, which is something that you share a lot on, which is this idea that we've earned something instead of that everything's a gift and we're just good shepherds of that gift. Sure. I've been paying attention, you see.
Yeah,
I'm a good student. But as I had the conversation, the guy was like, yeah, but all that sounds really good. Like, be patient and be present and this, but like, how am I going to get this moving? How am I going to, like, the fear of the lesson that we've been taught, which is run all the time, because if you don't run, you won't earn your success, I think has been the most conflicted subject when speaking to professional people who have the fire. And I can relate, because historically what I always said in every interview for the past 23 years, when someone asked me, what would you tell a 15-year-old Lex when he's back, now that you've been this really successful person? And I would say, enjoy the journey. Because I never stopped. I never stopped for the day that I got the Grammy. I never stopped for the day that I got my first record plaque. I never stopped for the day that I made the X goal money that I wanted to make. I never stopped to like take it all in. I was okay, well, so what's next?
Right.
So all that to say, how do you reconcile those two questions? The being present, being patient, and knowing that not necessarily because you stop working, you're not going to be blessed, because it's all a gift to begin with.
Sure.
With the old story, which is, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
Yeah.
I want to be a basketball player. I'm training all day long,
Right. Yeah. I came to realize, it's probably about 2 years ago, all the things that I think I want, I don't actually want them. All the things that I desire in this physical world, I don't really, at the core of it, I don't desire those. I desire the version of me that I would have to become to be able to have that.
Wow.
So I don't want the house. I don't want the car. I want who I would have to become to live in that house, to live in that car. For the longest, I lived on the outside, thinking it was the house, the car, this, the money. But when you start to realize everything that you manifest in your physical life, you must have a corresponding way of being. You must have a corresponding mindset, a perspective, a belief system. That's actually what we're chasing. So when I realized that, I stopped seeking and hunting, and I started creating. I started to create versions of myself. Who is it that I want to be? I want to be more present. I want to live in peace. I want to be more present with my children, instead of thinking like, what do I have to do next while I'm sitting there playing with them? So now doing that, the focus became the inner game instead of the outer game. And I tell people, like, obviously we live in a Western society where it's go, 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 go. And you can't divorce yourself from reality and go live in the Himalayas and meditate all day. But it's about you finding that balance of contraction and expansion. So I make time, minimum 3 times a day, to expand. And what I mean by that is, we're in this hustle bustle, society that we're in. It causes our awareness to contract. And now all we're doing is focus on what has to be done. I got to do this. I should have done this. But when we take a step back and we just take 5 minutes and close our eyes and start to do an audit on how we feel and what's going on the inside, it expands your awareness. And now you can go back into the jungle with this expanded awareness instead of this contracted awareness.
I love that. Wow, I love that. I I always say that I don't believe in balance,
Mm.
because it's impossible to control something you don't know, and we don't control what life will throw at us. So you can fight it. But I say I believe in rhythm, because we walk in rhythm, we talk in rhythm, our heartbeats in rhythm.
Sure.
And so I always say, or how do we synchronize ourselves to be with the rhythm of life?
It's good.
And as I've walked down that journey, I was sitting with another amazing spiritual leader, and we were talking about roller coasters, right? Because you hear that reference about life, like, oh, life is such a roller coaster, and it goes up and it goes down. And he said something to me that I thought was amazing, because I always used to say, well, I mean, you can choose two paths in the roller coaster, right? You can like hold on and be afraid, or you can just kind of enjoy it. And he said, how about you just don't get on? And I thought that was such a great one.
Yeah,
Right?
that's good.
And that clarity to me really came to me while doing Aya for the first time. And I know you've shared in the journey.
Yes.
So I wanted to hear what your experience was like, the kind of the first, and obviously the evolution of your work with medicine.
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up as an athlete, right? I never put any type of substance or anything in my body. You know, I never planned on being on this self-development journey to this level. But then I started to like become curious, like, what else is there to help me to evolve and grow? And of course, you have psilocybin, and started there, and that served its purpose. And then it was like, it's got to be another layer. And then all of a sudden, it's like I always say, the medicine calls you. And she started calling me. I mean, she had me calling me left and right. And then me and my wife went on our first ceremony together, and I realized how much fear drives my life. That was the first ceremony. And I'm like, my nervous system is always like this. It's in survival. And then here's what we've done, especially in athletics, especially in entrepreneurship. We glamorize it. We justify, well, I'm a go-getter. No, you're living out of fear, and your nervous system's like, I'm not safe. I'm not safe. What's going on here? So over my journey of having ceremonies, there's been a softening, a trusting of, we're always going to be okay. Always. Because remember those times when you wondered if you were going to make it? You're here. And the same thing would be moving forward. So I'm in the process right now of, I'm doing 10 ceremonies over the course of 4 months. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was down there 3 weeks ago, and I go back down there Sunday, here in 2 days, do 2 more. So
wow.
I'm in this process of like, I told my wife, I'm like, I have things that I'm ready to like get rid of. Yeah, let's go and clean it all up. In 2026, I've literally designed and written out what I want life to feel like, more importantly, and look like. And now I've identified, okay, we need to take that out, we need to take that out, we need to take that out. And now I'm using the medicine to help me to do that.
It's crazy, because I always used to say, I'm never going to do this. Are you kidding me? Like, you know, and for the majority of my life, I was extremely healthy in how I kind of even, touch alcohol. Like, I never was a guy that liked alcohol. Like, this was really not my thing. And I started with MDMA therapy. And so I'm going to paint the picture for you so you can understand how my first journey went.
Okay.
So I found a place that a close friend of mine referred to, and this great spiritual leader, and shout out to Ish, it was his birthday, which we've also had on the podcast. And I show up at his house. It's in the mountains of Santa Barbara, and he looks like Jesus. Okay. Like a version of what you've seen, that is like, he just has the white beard, just like he is tall. He is like, you're like, this man, when he was young, he was handsome. He was handsome.
Sure.
So you're like, oh my God, what is going on here? Come in, and I meet his mentor, Don Rothenzel. And Don was suffering from Parkinson's. And so while Ish got everything ready in this tiki hut in the mountain, I'm sitting next to Don. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to be feeling. You know what I mean? I had never done anything. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And so it starts, and like any other therapy session, you're just like, oh yeah, well, I'm doing this, and this is what I'm feeling, and this person, and oh my God, and I just don't know about my job. And then the medicine hits you, and you're just like, what? Like, am I? And Don said something to me. He goes, Lex, have you ever just realized you're okay?
Oh.
Nothing needs to change.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah.
And it was such an impactful moment in the journey, because it was like the catalyst of everything else that went on.
Sure.
And then I dug deep into Aya, and I remember the first ceremony I did feeling generally frustrated, because I didn't really think I felt something. I saw all these thoughts, and I like was sitting in it, and I cried a lot in that first. But it wasn't until the next morning where I opened my intentions that I started to see that all these questions I had said, I had a clarity on.
Sure, yeah.
But what I found to be really useful for me, and I think this is when someone asks me about medicine work, or even, meeting with a coach or doing therapy or anything that is self-help as all, it's like you can visit every major conference you want. You can do every medicine you want.
Sure.
Question is, are you going to have the courage to act on it?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And that's the hardest part. I mean, you versus you. Are you willing to face those parts of you that have been hiding in the shadows? And it's funny you say that. I had never planned on doing this when it comes to Aya, and I was sitting with my team one day, and I was like, "Did Jesus wear blue jeans?" And they were like, "I don't know." My whole point of it was to get them to see it didn't matter what he wore; it was the message that transcended space and time. It didn't matter what he looked like. So as I started to move on this journey, I told my wife, like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing ayahuasca." She's like, "Okay, well, I feel like I want to do it as well." So our shaman that we had found, he's from Peru. His name was Jesus. It gets crazier. So the first time he comes by the resort and we're going to meet, I'm sitting there looking at him. We're talking. And then later we end up having the ceremony, and I'm like in it. And my wife's going through it. And I just look at her, and she looks at me. And I'm like, Jesus had on blue jeans earlier. And I'm getting chills right now, because that was like a sign to me, like, no, you're supposed to be doing this. You're fine. Like, of all the, his name could have been anything. Like, the fact that he had on jeans, you don't see a shaman wearing jeans. But it was just another sign, from this universe saying, hey, everything is just the way it's supposed to be. Your job is to just trust it. And, now Jesus is my homeboy. So. Jesus is a
homeboy. It's so crazy, because talking about clarity in mind, and expanding, which I love that, I never saw it in that way, but I love that concept. It's something I want to apply to my life, of just finding times in the day to expand. And I was sharing with the group the other day that, you don't miss 1,000% of the shots you don't take. You miss 1,000% of the shots you don't see.
Yeah.
And we are in a car sitting, trying to make decisions while listening to crazy rock music.
Sure, yeah.
And that's our mind every day. And, the clarity that I've experienced doing medicine work, and even just in meditation and breath work, is the red car syndrome, is the Jesus genes, which is when your brain allows itself to have clarity, it creates this brain path to, all of a sudden you bought a new car and you're like, oh my God, everybody has the same car.
Yeah.
They didn't just go by that day. You're just noticing the reality, right?
Yeah.
The question is, how do you know what reality is versus what you're perceiving? And how is what you're perceiving turned into your reality truly your reality?
Yeah. So reality, if we look at it, it is the culmination of our mental and emotional state. Your mental and emotional state are what determine how you look at something, right? When you are going through a bad breakup and you hear, a breakup song, that song is going to hit differently, because mentally and emotionally, you're in a space to be able to receive that. But if your relationship's great and everything's rolling, you don't want to hear that song. It sounds terrible. I don't want to hear nothing about it. It's too slow. But we don't realize this is what we call our frequency. And frequencies can only resonate at the same frequency that you're at. So I know for me personally, anything that comes in my life, I must be resonating at that frequency in some way, shape, or form. Because it could not show up in my reality unless I was resonating at that frequency to be able to see it, just like the red car. You won't see the red. Those red cars have all been there.
Yeah.
You just don't see them, though, because you weren't resonating at a frequency to be able to see the red car. So I have a lot of parents, a lot of times they ask me, what do I do with my child, and tell them to be realistic? And I'm like, well, we got to be careful how we say things, because what's realistic is based on what this child believes is possible. So reality is not out there. Reality is in here. And this is when, if I'm being honest, this is when the game changed for me. When I realized, oh, this doesn't actually exist without me. This is literally a mirror. That's all it is. And that mirror doesn't smile unless I smile. We often try to get the mirror to smile and we're not smiling. So like business, relationship, everything, I stopped focusing on the effect and started putting all my energy on the cause. And that is the first reality. It's the inner reality. As within, so without.
You know, one of the things that I get a lot when coaching someone or when building someone, I always say, I think my genuine natural gift is that I'm a fire starter. That I can see when God aligns that person in my life, like you said, the frequency. And I always said, you know, if God has put you around and you're around, be a little scared.
Sure.
Because that usually means you're in a point of transition in your life and he's going to rock.
Sure.
But one of the toughest things as a leader to see is your loved ones or your friends going through difficult times when, you know, their life is starting to change and they are going through the pain. Yeah. And at first, early on in my life, when I didn't have kind of the clarity and the understanding of self as I've gotten, you know, no one's ever arrived, but as I've gotten more of that clarity in myself, I would become the savior, right? I would become, well, you know, here I am. Sure. Yeah. I'm Uncle Lex coming to save the day.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, said, you know, Lex, no one needs saving. But the journey and the idea that we've taught people of, hey, the light at the end of the tunnel. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. So you're going to be the light at the end of the tunnel. And it wasn't until I understood that the fire is where the lesson is that we said, well, how about you just learn to dance in the fire? Change your perception about the fire and all of a sudden you enjoy it. But in your work, especially with, you know, professional athletes, people who have so much drive, but that drive also hides so much pain, is driven by so much internal things that they're dealing with. And then they get exposed to a large audience and criticism and all these things. And so they sit in this very uncomfortable place where their pain and hurt is, and their hardest times are out in the public for judgment. Sure. What advice do you give those players? How do you coach them out of that mindset where it's very quickly and very easy, as I've seen with so many, to get into depression and you know, go down that road even deeper after?
Yeah, it first takes a reshifting of the way we look at adversity. Right? Adversity was never meant to break you. Adversity is actually meant to build you. And a microcosm of this is if you look at a weight room, right? When I go in there and work out and I'm lifting weights, the weight's heavy. It's hard to move. I'm sore the next day. It literally creates micro tears in my muscle. But here's what ends up happening. The muscle adapts. The muscle starts to build to become stronger. So resistance, adversity is what builds our soul. It's literally what builds us up. So I know for me, and like I told my children this, I have a 13-year-old and 10-year-old, like if something is hard, this is life's way of saying it's time for you to develop in this part of life. And it's on you to start asking the right questions. So instead of being the victim saying, why me? Why is this happening? It's, what is this actually trying to teach me right now? What part of me do I need to let go of? If I could go back, what would I be doing differently? And then we won't be depending on Tom Brady to try to save us in the fourth quarter because we were accountable in the first quarter, in the second quarter, in the third quarter. And this is ultimately what happens. We don't realize that we will go through tests, things will happen, but those tests were only meant to be testimonies later down the road. It was coming to you to help you to grow and evolve because there's a part of you that you need to let go of that's so tucked in the shadows that you seek people's approval and you're a people pleaser and your self-worth is down here, that for you to get where you're trying to get to, that version of you cannot continue to hide. So life says we need to do things to bring it up to the surface. I got a client who plays in the NBA and he started to hear like the chatter of the media and the crowd and saying, you know, is he really that good? Is he really all these? And he's like, it's bothering me. I said, that's because there's a part of you who seeks the validation of people on the outside. And for you to be an all-star, that version of you needs to die. So life is triggering and bringing it up. But you have to stop thinking it's them and realize they're bringing up a part of you. And this is why I keep saying, that's why I love this podcast. It literally is just you versus you. Nobody else exists outside of you. Nobody.
That, the part of dying, I think anytime you hear that word, people like they cringe. But that experience of letting go of a version of yourself and letting it die means dying.
Yeah.
And I think, again, for most of us, it's hard to understand the feeling that it is to let go of something. That's why we have a hard time letting go of relationships, and people stay in relationships, overstay relationships, or overstay in jobs, or overstay in that, and that tearing. And one of the things I say is like you said, pain is necessary, but suffering is such a mental state.
Yes.
What tools do you use for your you versus you battle?
Okay. I have what I call these non-negotiables, daily dues. First thing in the morning, I'm prioritizing my time with myself. So if that means I have to get up before everybody else, then I'll get up before everybody else. But I'm spending minimum 10, 15 minutes with just myself. I'm journaling. I'm writing down everything that I am thinking about, everything that I'm feeling in that moment before my day starts. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this creates your baseline for the day. And your baseline will be centered around awareness. If I'm worried about what happened yesterday and I'm stressing about what's going on, I will start to write this, because if I don't, I will slowly start to contract over the day. And now I'm wound up and I'm not even realizing this started earlier this morning, but you were unaware of it. And when you start to understand that awareness is the thing that gets rid of everything. So if I have issues, bring more awareness to it. This is why asking those questions is so powerful. So journaling, meditation is obviously a powerful tool, but just sitting there and observing what's going on inside of you.
I love that. Well, Derek, every time that I do this pod, I always end it with a question. And as we've discussed, the power of our words, the stories we tell ourselves are so powerful to ourselves. And we tend to be so kind to others.
Sure.
Right? We'll tell our wives and our friends nice things, but a lot harder on ourselves.
Sure.
So today, what is one word or one phrase that Derek has to hear in his you versus you battle?
One word. Oh, man. I literally heard this word today. I took some time to expand. Trust.
I love that. Derek, thank you for being part of You Versus You. I loved having you here, and this is one of many, many conversations we'll have on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Loved it.
Thank you for tuning in to You Versus You. We would love for you to join our global community by hitting the subscribe button. And of course, share, like, and comment with anyone who you think could use these incredible conversations to reshape their lives. Our mission here is to help you live the life of your dreams.